This video is part of your weekly videos. In this video, of course, I'm going over announcements for the week, and I'm reviewing the slides from the week before. We'll start off with this week's announcement is that there is a new assignment. It is your first assignment called Art of the Day, and it is assigned today, and it is due 2 weeks from now on July 4th. On Blackboard, you have, I'm still putting the Blackboard together, but you have a link to the Art of the Day assignment. You can click this and follow the link and it'll take you straight there, or as a reminder, you can click on your assignments module on the left, and here is the Art of the Day folder. And so you'll have a video of me explaining the handout. You'll have the handout, and then this is where you turn in your completed project. So watch the video. It's like 10 or so minutes long, and I show an example of a past assignment that a past presentation that a student turned in, and and I've got the handout for you, and you can turn it in there. So that's your announcement for the day. Here's the review of last week. So last week we spoke about, well, this is part of the introduction. I asked, what is art? And so then I started by some of the public art in Chicago. We've got Cloud Gate by Anish Kapoor and the Picasso sculpture downtown. Alexander Calder's Flamingo, by the way, my favorite of the sculptures. The Jean Dubuffet sculpture outside the Thompson Center. This is a great place to take your nieces and nephews when they come to visit me here in Chicago. I always take them here. It's a great fountain. So then I ask questions. Why do we make art? And I had you include your answers in the quiz for last week. So I skimmed some of them, though I haven't really graded the quizzes. I skimmed them, and I think they're pretty on point. So why do we make art? And I spoke about some reasons why I make art, or why people do. And then why should we study art? And then I asked about the infamous smile, Mona Lisa's smile. And I talked about how art is all around us and it is culturally important. And so you have an artist in 1919 riffing off of the Mona Lisa, and then you have these people, these superstars, portraits in front of Mona Lisa. We've got, even Andy Warhol did images of the Mona Lisa. And so then I talked about an artist, Takashi Murakami, who designed a bunch of Kanye West's albums, and here's one with Kid Cudi. Here's Takashi Murakami with Louis Vuitton. There's Takashi Murakami right there. And a big Takashi Murakami show at the Museum of Contemporary Art in Chicago, which included some of Kanye West stuff. Then I moved on to chapter 1 and 2, where I talked about some common concepts and descriptors. We spoke about form, iconography, mediums, techniques, style, and the difference between subject and content. So form is the totality of the composition, every part that makes up a composition. Whether it's complicated or similar or simple, the form are the elements that create the artwork. We talked about the form of this painting. We spoke about iconography, how images can reflect meaning, cultural meanings and so we can derive what artwork is about because of iconography. And so the medium is what the art is made out of, and the technique is how the medium is used. So in this piece, I include this piece because I think it's funny. The medium is chocolate, and the technique is gnawing on the chocolate. The medium for this painting is paint, oil paint specifically on canvas, and the technique is soft, dreamlike. You would call it impressionist if you know that term, but soft, dreamlike, cool colors. This is again, it's paint on canvas. This time acrylic paint on canvas, but the technique is more splotchy and big shapes. So artists develop style, cultures develop styles. This is a style of Vincent van Gogh. Subject matter is the what of the artwork. It's different than the form, different than the content. So people, places, things, themes, processes, events, ideas are all possible subjects within the work of art. When we're talking about the form of this artwork includes that it is a photograph. It includes, it bleeds into the subject, but the form is a photograph, and it's how it's organized. But the subject is specifically what we have going on here, all these elements specifically in there. It's more subject, and it's possible that the subject is non-objective. The subject is shapes. It is color in this instance. Content is, consider content being what the form and the subject and the iconography combined, they make the content. So you start interpreting what the work is about. So content becomes close to what is the why of the artwork. Why did the artist make this artwork? So symbolism is often key component. So why did the artist make the artwork? In this instance, this is a Holocaust memorial, and it specifically references book burning and library burning. The content of this, we've got peasants picking up loose wheat and grain. So that is part of the content, because the subject matter is people. The subject matter is the outfits that they're wearing, but we look at the actions that they're doing. So that's all subject matter, but content is where you take the subject matter and the form and the iconography and you really start interpreting what's going on. So you can make a judgment that these are peasants at that point developing content. So that was chapter 1. And then we got to chapter 2, where we spoke about a line, shape, light, value, color, texture, space, time, and motion. So these are all physical elements of design for the artwork. So we spoke about line. What is line? A line can essentially be anything, but you can describe it in different terms. Lines show movement. They show, of course, visual elements, or are visual elements. They show thresholds that delineate between an object and its environment. So if you are holding an apple in space, a red apple, or say an apple up above your head against the sky, you've got a red apple and a blue sky. That infinitely small line, that's the edge between the red and the blue. That transition, or that small space, that is also a line. So the characteristics of line, we've got the measure, we've got the types, expressive qualities, contour, actual, implied, and psychological. The measure is the dimensions of the lines. types of lines. Use any word to describe how lines could be made. So geometric, erratic, smooth, circle, straight. Expressive qualities. What are the emotions that come through lines? Disorganized, organized. Contour lines are outlines of figures, but also the lines that maybe define shadow. So these are all contour lines here. An implied line is not actually a physically connected line. It's more of like a dotted line. So there are many things that create dotted lines. If you're looking at the front of a building and you see all the windows straight in a row, well, the window sills create this dotted line. So that's an implied line that goes right across all the window sills. Here's another implied line looking at how the baby's butt follows the back and the hand all the way up to the head of the woman and goes back down like this. This is implied. Psychological lines aren't there at all, but they appear there because our brain makes those connections. One of the easier psychological lines is if a person's looking at something, what are they looking at? There's a line being created between them. But in the quiz last week, there was a ring of women that they were holding hands dancing on a hill, and there were two women whose hands weren't connected, and those fingers were pointing towards each other as if they were creating a psychological line. So psychological lines aren't really there, but they're inferred. And then we talk about the functions of lines: outline and shape, depth and texture, illusions of volume and mass, and then characteristics of shapes. Shapes are infinite in design, but we've got geometric, organic, and non-objective and abstract shapes and shapeless shapes. We spoke a bit about figure ground reversal, where we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 naked women on one way, but if you blur your eyes or stand back a little bit, this looks like a skull. So that is figure ground reversal because you're seeing two images in one place. There's a more ancient version of figure ground reversal. Salvador Dali, this artist here and here, he loved figure ground reversal. Lots of his paintings had figure ground reversal in them. So here we have like two people who look like, I don't know, a mix between nuns and pilgrims, creating eyeballs and a nose and the chin of another woman, of a figure. And we talked about iconic shapes. And every shape has meaning. Every shape is really icon in a way. And so what does that mean? This doesn't, a fat Ronald McDonald doesn't just mean McDonald's. It's perhaps an implication or it implies some sort of criticism of McDonald's in some sort of way, because Ronald McDonald is, of course, overweight and he's wearing a fancy bling necklace. So what does that mean? What do these iconic shapes mean? All right, and then we spoke about chapter 3, which is where we really started to tackle light, the visible spectrum of light, value and contrast, value pattern, and chiaroscuro. So visible spectrum, we've got Roy G. Biv, right? They mix together to make white light. But color is never to be confused as being value and contrast. So value is how black or how white something is. This is a good example. We've got a high value is white, a low value is black, and all these grays in between, they're different steps on the value scale. So we have dark, dark, light, light. Here's a medium, So here's maybe a high, medium, and then a low ish, low, medium value here. But contrast is the difference between two values. So we have a light light on this edge and a dark dark on this edge. The difference of contrast is high. That is high contrast because there's a great difference between the two, light light and dark dark. But these two in particular, we've got a medium dark and then a darker medium. So these two, that is a low contrast because the values are close together. Even these two are low contrast. But if you go several steps away, that's high contrast. So a value pattern is how the artwork is organized. Value patterns can be, you describe a value pattern by using all of the words in your vocabulary. So we have a this artwork is divided into two. We've got low contrast panel on the right and a high contrast panel on the left. Low contrast because the darkest darks and the lightest lights on the right are rather close to each other, especially in relation to the panel on the left where the darkest darks and the lightest lights are far away from each other. Chiaroscuro is a funny term. Ultimately not that important, but it is a $2 word, so you can impress someone if you get a chance to use it. But chiaroscuro is dark darks and light lights, high contrast. Artists such as Caravaggio during the Renaissance really pioneered this. So like a person stepping out of the shadows. That's chiaroscuro. And then, of course, this is an artwork that is just red projected onto the wall, but that is an artist using color in a physical way. So here we talk about, we tackle color more definitively. So we talk about additive color, subtractive color, the color wheel, hue, intensity and saturation, color schemes, analogous and complementary colors, local and optical color, and arbitrary color. So additive color, that is particularly by using light. So if you take red and blue, actually in light that would be called cyan. So red and cyan, and you get magenta. And if you get, it's because it's subtracting from each other's spectrum. So you mix red and green and you get yellow. So the red is pulling is opposite of the green on the color wheel, and what's left is yellow. And on and on. So you mix all the colors together and you get white. That is additive color. Your TV screen is made with additive color. TV screen is particularly referred to as RGB, red, green, and blue. And then you can get a full range of color with those with additive color. But then we have subtractive color, which is similar to paint that you will have mixed. So we've got this isn't quite right. Anyway, you've got yellow and blue and it makes green, for example. All right, again, mixing colors. Got some finger painting here. Your printed magazine, that is actually subtractive color. I'm not sure the science behind that, but it uses 4 colors, cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. That comes in different dots. So it's how it mixes together. Here's the color wheel. We've got our primary colors of yellow, red, and blue. Our secondary colors are halfway between our primary colors. So we've got green, orange, and violet. So primary, secondary. There are no colors that can be mixed to create yellow, blue, or red. Those are the source colors for everything in this world that we see. So red, yellow, and blue. Another word for color is hue. This is the fancy artist word for color, hue. We have our tertiary colors, which is we're halfway between the secondary and the primary colors. So we've got yellow, green, a blue green, a blue violet, a red violet, a red orange, and a yellow orange. Analogous colors sit next to each other on the color wheel. So all of these colors are analogous to red because they all have red in them. Complementary colors are opposite of each other on the color wheel. So the complement to yellow, for example, is violet. The complement to blue is orange. These are complementary colors. Now, I want to go back to value. Value is how white or how black a color is. And so that would be the left side of this image. We've got white to black, but you could consider all being yellow. Intensity or saturation is how yellow it is. So that's left to right. So this isn't very yellow at all, but you start going this way and we get saturation. When you talk about value, you are never talking about color. You are only talking about how black or how white something is. When you're talking about saturation, you are only talking about color and you are never talking about value or black and white. So this is high saturation. Here we go again. We've got white to black and white to yellow. If you go right in the middle, you've got this grayish yellow. That is a medium saturation, and because it's halfway between there and there, and it is a medium value. If you go up, you've got high value, medium saturation. If you go over here, you've got high value, high saturation. And then down here is high, say even right there in that dark gray area, you've got a lower value but still a high saturation. We talked about cool colors, so that's your purples and greens and blues, and your warm colors, they make you feel warm. So we've got red and yellow in particular. Local color versus optical color. Local color is how something is the color that something actually is, but optical color is how it appears. If you look at this image, these two X's are the same color. So local color is exactly the same, but optically they look different. That looks like a gray, dark gray, blue, purpley, periwinkle, and then this looks like a yellow over here. But really, it is different. It is the same. So our local color is that it looks the same, or is that it is the same, but our optical color is that it looks different. Arbitrary color is color that just don't make sense. Color that is that doesn't have a direct reference to the real world. So that is the end of the review. Go ahead and watch your lectures and get started on the Art of the Day presentation assignment as soon as you can. It is due in 2 weeks.